Did you know one of the most disturbing military mysteries in American history involves a warship that was supposedly made invisible? A ship that vanished from sight, teleported hundreds of miles across states, and returned with its crew fused into the solid steel hull of the vessel. This is the story of the Philadelphia Experiment, a legend that simply refuses to die. The story begins in the heart of World War II, 1943. According to accounts that surfaced years later, the US Navy was secretly experimenting with a highly classified technology called electromagnetic field manipulation. The goal, to render entire naval ships invisible to enemy radar, giving them the ultimate tactical advantage. The vessel at the center of this incredible story was a real destroyer escort, the USS Eldridge, launched that same year. But according to the legend, what was supposed to be a breakthrough in military science became a descent into absolute horror. Witnesses who later came forward claimed that on October 28, 1943, powerful electromagnetic generators aboard the Eldridge were activated. What happened next has become one of the most debated and terrifying events in the history of conspiracy theories. The ship, they said, began to glow with a strange greenish-blue haze. Then, it slowly started to become transparent, fading from view not just from radar but to the naked eye. Within seconds it reportedly vanished completely from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, but that's not even the strangest part. At the exact same moment, people in Norfolk, Virginia, 300 miles away claimed they saw the same ship suddenly appear out of thin air in the harbor, and just as quickly as it arrived, it vanished again. Moments later, back in Philadelphia, the USS Eldridge allegedly reappeared, but what the onlookers saw was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Eyewitnesses described a gruesome and chaotic aftermath. Some sailors were found embedded halfway inside the steel hull and bulkheads of the ship, still alive, screaming in agony. Others were simply gone, missing entirely, believed to have been teleported to another dimension or vaporized into nothingness. Several members of the crew had gone completely mad, unable to speak, recognize their surroundings, or even remember who they were. A few allegedly burst into flames spontaneously, hours or even days after the experiment had ended. These horrific claims became the disturbing core of the Philadelphia Experiment story. The belief that the intense electromagnetic field had not only made the ship invisible, but had warped space, time, and the very fabric of physical matter itself. So, where did this wild, terrifying story even come from? The legend can be traced primarily back to one man, a mysterious figure named Carl M. Allen, who also went by the name Carlos Allende. In the 1950s, more than a decade after the supposed event, Allen began sending a series of strange, annotated letters to a Navy researcher named Maurice K. Jessup, who had written a book about UFOs. In these letters, Allen claimed that he had personally witnessed the entire event from the deck of a nearby merchant ship. He described details that sounded completely impossible: teleportation, time travel, optical invisibility, and the disastrous effects of electromagnetic warping on the human body. His bizarre, rambling letters became the foundation of the myth, providing the eyewitness account that conspiracy theorists would cling to for decades. Of course, when asked about these claims, the Navy's official response was a swift and total denial. They said nothing of the sort had ever happened. For its part, the US Navy has always maintained a consistent and unwavering position. They state, unequivocally, that no invisibility experiment ever occurred. They insist that electromagnetic teleportation is science fiction, not science fact. They point to the official ship's logs of the USS Eldridge, which show that the crew reported nothing unusual during its service. In fact, the Navy's own records indicate that the ship was never even in Philadelphia on the alleged date of the experiment. Declassified documents from that era show that the Navy was indeed conducting experiments on its ships, but these were related to degaussing technology. Degaussing was a standard procedure that used a system of electrical cables to generate a magnetic field around a ship's hull. This process was designed to make ships invisible to a specific threat: magnetically triggered sea mines, a common danger in World War II. The Navy argues that this real, but far less sensational, technology was likely misunderstood or deliberately exaggerated to create the myth. There was nothing remotely connected to optical invisibility or teleportation. But skeptics have always asked the same question: if it was a top-secret project that went catastrophically wrong, would the Navy ever really admit it? Despite the official denials and the plausible explanations, the Philadelphia Experiment continues to fascinate and haunt the public imagination. Why? Because there are just enough strange details and unanswered questions to keep the theory alive. Witnesses, or at least people claiming to be witnesses, have continued to insist they saw the ship disappear. Researchers have pointed out that the Navy's official records from that time contained several curious gaps and inconsistencies. More importantly, electromagnetic field research was exploding during World War II. Some of the world's greatest scientific minds were working on classified projects. Even Albert Einstein was publicly discussing his work on a unified field theory, the very same scientific principle that the experiment supposedly used to bend space and time. And then there's the biggest reason the story won't die: the chilling anecdotes. Over the years, stories of sailors fused into metal and driven insane by a secret experiment have continued to resurface. often shared by anonymous insiders or deathbed confessors claiming to have been part of the project. So, what was the Philadelphia experiment? Was it simply a misunderstood test of a routine anti-mine technology? Was it an elaborate hoax started by one man, a story that spiraled wildly out of control and took on a life of its own? Or was it a real, classified operation that went catastrophically wrong, resulting in one of the most terrifying accidents in military history? We may never know for sure, but it remains one of the most chilling and enduring military legends ever told. It's a story that perfectly mixes real science, government secrecy, and the terrifying unknown that lies just beyond our understanding. Even today, over 80 years later, the Navy's official position is firm. It never happened. But believers in the experiment have their own answer. That's exactly what they want you to think. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.